Corla. Firstly, I want to begin by thanking the deputies for bringing this bill to the House, a bill which Sinn Féin are happy to support. I note the opposition of the government and the absence of the minister, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to the minister who is here, but I do think it is a pity that the minister saw fit to launch a broadside against this legislation in quite a negative way, as I would see it, and as one of the deputies has already said, the opportunity to amend is there, the opportunity to work together is there. The premise on which the bill is being put forward is, I believe, a good one. I did have a little chuckle, I have to be honest, when the Minister Doherty claimed to be protecting women from unscrupulous employers, because of course that's why we have trade unions. And it's rare that you will hear a deputy from that particular quarter come in and do anything other than sometimes defend unscrupulous employers. But I don't think that women need to be protected in quite that way. I don't think that families are screaming out for that level of protection, and I don't think they'll be touched or indeed convinced by the minister's words. From our perspective, we believe that it's not before time that this is on the agenda. I'm happy to be debating it today. I think it is overdue. The introduction of shared leave is a step that I know that many parents will welcome. People who live in the real world and defend themselves against unscrupulous employers by joining trade unions and defending their interests that way. We've moved away from the Ireland of old, the Ireland forged by the Conservative counter-revolution in the early years of the Free State, which effectively destroyed ideals of equality and right to equal opportunities. What they gave us was a crushingly theological and conservative state, which told us that a woman's place is in the home. And we're due a referendum on that particular archaic clause in the new year, and I, for one, believe that can't come quick enough. This and many others are signs that our society is moving on. Nevertheless, there are a multitude of issues which linger on in law or are not provided for, which women will have to fight for and we will have to see rectified. This bill here today seeks to address one of these issues when it comes to maternity leave. Not only has the construction of families changed in recent times, but so too has the nature of raising children. The reality is that partners now play a pivotal role in the upbringing of their children, and the passing of this bill would be, in my opinion and the opinion of my party, a reflection of that, because it is a fact. My own experience of maternity leave, although it was a very long time ago, I think maternity leave was 10 weeks at the time, if memory serves. It's not today or yesterday. But my own experience was that I was a student in college when I availed of maternity leave, and I went back to college when my daughter was 3 weeks old. It would have been very helpful for us as a small little family that we were to be able to share the maternity leave, because we shared the parenting. We had to. And again, Minister Doherty expressed a grave concern on behalf of the breastfeeding mothers of Ireland. But you know what, we can manage that, and there are facilities to ensure that we can manage that. And if 20 odd years ago I was able to manage it, when there weren't such facilities in place, I know that women will be able to manage that now. And I think that the concern for breastfeeding mothers was a bit of a ruse. I don't believe that is the reason why they are opposing this legislation. The first year of a child's life is crucial in their development, and parents should be able to spend as much time as is possible with their newborn children, giving them the space and the time to bond with that child. Figures released by the Department of Social Protection show that around 51,000 fathers have been awarded sick leave since the scheme began. Since the scheme began in September 2016, with nearly 2,000 taking paternity leave every month. And I say fathers, not daddies, because I think that we should probably stick to mothers and fathers rather than mummies and daddies, as I heard said earlier. Current leave entitlement in both the 6 counties and the 26 is considerably less than what is available to workers elsewhere in Europe. Ireland has been identified as an example of worst practice in the European Union when it comes to parental leave rights. It lags far behind other member states in the European Union when it comes to maternity leave, paternity leave and parental leave. Sinn Féin strongly supports the introduction of statutory rights to flexible working arrangements, which can play a role in enabling workers to balance work with family and other responsibilities, thereby significantly enhancing a worker's quality of life. Though the current situation has improved for prospective parents over the last few years, we still have more to do, and I think that is evidence in the fact that we all know people, and this was referenced previously, young women who will go to job interviews and will feel nearly obliged to play down the prospects of whether or not they may be taking maternity leave into the future, when in actual fact, in truth, if it was a man or a woman sitting there and either of them would have an equal chance of availing of maternity leave, well then you are levelling up the playing field, then you are ensuring that, that the appointment is made on merit, or that the woman isn't at a disadvantage merely by the fact that she is seen as the one most likely to take that maternity leave. 26 weeks of paid maternity leave that new mothers in the state are entitled to is paid at a low flat rate, and it is one of the lowest levels of payment in the European Union. The sum of €230 per week for mothers to remain at home from work is simply not enough, though I do acknowledge that when I availed of it myself, I think it was 77, but that was pounds, but again, a long time ago, so I suppose some progress has been made. We need to look at substantially increasing this payment if we are to be seen to take the concerns of new parents seriously and to support them in the formative years of their children's lives. It would be remiss of me not to use this opportunity to mention a group of people whose access to shared maternity leave could be hampered because of the failure by the government to address their own situation. Same-sex couples who have conceived a child through surrogacy or donor assistance are at a distinct disadvantage because only one parent is allowed on the birth cert, leaving the other without any legal protections, because parts 2, 3 and 9 of the Children and Family Relationships Act 2015 have not been implemented. This historic legislation, which complemented the referendum for civil marriage equality, gave rights to same-sex parents for their family formation to be recognised and protected. 3.5 years on, the families have started, the couples have conceived, but the legislation still hasn't been fully implemented, and it isn't delivering for these couples in that regard. Again, I thank the deputies for bringing forward this legislation. We're happy to support the bill, and we're happy to actively engage in the process, which I think is what people wanted to hear from the Minister. And instead, the response from the Minister, the crocodile tears for women treated badly in the workplace, and indeed the campaign that she's mounting on behalf of breastfeeding mothers, I think that's all a little bit misguided. The intention of this legislation is very clear. The purpose of it is not to do in any way as was outlined by the Minister. So Sinn Féin are happy to support this, happy to work with all parties across the House to ensure that if there are amendments that need to be made, and the indication was given that those amendments will be received gratefully. So I remind the people here, we have until next Thursday. This is a good piece of legislation. If it can be approved, let's do it. And again, the intent is clear, and I would urge everybody to come on board and support it.
Thank you.